also denounced the growing waste problem tied to wind energy, citing massive blade dumps in Texas and Wyoming, one with over 4,000 turbine blades. Bouglé says this problem is coming to Europe next.
When you look at photos from the Texas blade dump, it's striking. You see the blades of wind turbine need to be both flexible and hard, so they use things like balsa wood, and so, the material used is not reusable. If you burn it, it produces fumes that cause cancer similar to asbestos cancer. There are 4,000 blades in this dump in Texas. In France, we have around 10,000 wind turbines. So that's about 30,000 pails that we will have to dump somewhere in our country in about 20 years.
France's government planned in July to invest $340 billion in renewables by 2035. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
And we're just going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more news, so don't go anywhere. Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the White House is getting a new ballroom. Meanwhile, Leavitt says former Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton approved efforts to undermine President Donald Trump's 2016 campaign and his first term. The Senate's defense appropriations bill seeks to rapidly modernize the U.S. military to address the growing threat from the Chinese Communist Party. President Trump is giving Mexico another 90 days to reach a trade deal. How about China? We have an analysis on the president's strategy. The Justice Department today defending President Trump's sweeping tariffs as a panel of federal judges questions his power to impose them. New online safety laws in Britain are impacting free speech and even American tech businesses. The rules aim at protecting kids from harm online, but critics say the new rules reach much further. A political thriller inspired by events during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic in China. The movie The Unrestricted War is premiering on Capitol Hill today. We bring you a panel discussion from the event.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thanks for staying with us. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the White House is building a new ballroom. He stressed that its construction is necessary during a press briefing this afternoon.
The White House is one of the most beautiful and historic buildings in the world. Yet the White House is currently unable to host major functions, honoring world leaders in other countries without having to install a large and unsightly tent approximately 100 yards away from the main building's entrance. The White House State Ballroom will be a much-needed and exquisite addition of approximately 90,000 total square feet of innately designed and carefully crafted space with a seated capacity of 650 people, which is a significant increase from the 200-person seated capacity in the East Room of the White House.
Meanwhile, Leavitt answered questions about the so-called Russiagate scandal. Leavitt said Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton gave the green light to undermine Trump's 2016 campaign and ultimately his first term.
This should be a story every outlet in this room should be covering. This is further evidence that Hillary Clinton approved the Russia hoax against President Trump. Her campaign financed it. Again, she approved it. And the FBI and the CIA were both weaponized to, as our director of CIA has said, accelerate this hoax against then candidate and former President Trump. To answer the heart of your question, the president wants to see justice served, and he trusts the Attorney General and the Department of Justice to implement that justice and hold these people accountable.
The Senate Appropriations Committee reached a bipartisan consensus to advance their version of the defense budget for fiscal year 2026. Our Washington correspondent, Luis Eduardo Martinez, has the details.
You've got authoritarian regimes coordinating with each other. The North Koreans, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranian proxies, all communicating. And the one thing they have in common, they hate us.
In a divided Congress, senators have found common ground when addressing U.S. national security threats, in particular the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party and its anti-American axis.
Deterring China, standing with Ukraine, standing up to the increasing coordination of the People's Republic of China Russia, Iran, and the DPRK, and modernizing the DoD with a sense of urgency because the clock is ticking.
The bipartisan consensus in the Appropriations Committee yielded a nearly $40 billion spending cut, the second year in a row that defense spending is reduced, not increased.
This bill reduces waste and duplication by making hundreds of cuts to underperforming programs and realigning those billions of dollars in savings into higher priority programs.
It expands critical munitions production, including air and missile defense interceptors, long-range missiles, and next-generation hypersonic weapons developed by our most innovative firms. It funds drone and counter-drone technologies.
The bipartisan bill also makes an important investment in the service members and their families.
From a pay increase for service members to robust child care funding to new investments in preventing suicide and sexual assault and conducting life-saving medical research. So I really appreciate the work that went into negotiating these important investments.
The Senate Appropriations Committee has already passed half of the funding bills for fiscal year 2026, and the full Senate is expected to have a vote on a trio of appropriation bills before the August recess. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
President Trump said he would give Mexico another 90 days to reach an agreement with the White House on tariffs. After speaking with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "The complexities of a deal with Mexico are somewhat different than other nations because of both the problems and assets of the border." He said, "We have agreed to extend for a 90-day period," adding Mexico will continue to pay a 25% fentanyl tariff, 25% tariff on cars, and a 50% tariff on steel, aluminum, and copper. Without a trade agreement, Mexico would have faced a 35% tariff starting August 1st. Trump said the two sides will continue talks over the next 90 days with the goal of signing a new deal. The Mexican president also said she had a good talk with Trump, saying in a post on X, quote, "We avoided the tariff increase announced for tomorrow and secured 90 days to build a long-term agreement through dialogue." The White House is closing a trade loophole that let foreign retailers avoid U.S. tariffs on low-cost goods. It's known as the de minimis exemption. Starting August 29th, shipments valued under $800 will face all relevant duties. The administration says the policy will stop the import of what it calls below-market products and curb the flow of dangerous drugs like fentanyl. The Trump administration earlier targeted packages from China and Hong Kong. The change will now affect all packages sent outside the International Postal Network. Meanwhile, packages sent by post will face new tariffs ranging from $80 to $200 per package, depending on origin. This comes after a surge in duty-free shipments. U.S. Customs now processes over 4 million daily de minimis shipments. The Justice Department argued today that President Trump has the power to impose sweeping tariffs under a law meant for national emergencies. The case was heard by a full panel of Federal Circuit judges. Several judges were concerned that no real emergency existed.
Yes, there may be other tariff statutes that may also apply in the context of non-emergencies, but in the context of an emergency, the president can invoke that authority, and he can invoke all of it, subject to the limits in the emergency authority.
At 583 in Yoshida, the court said, quote, "The declaration of a national emergency is not a talisman enabling the president to rewrite the tariff schedules." And because that would sound the death knell of the Constitution. So clearly, I understand Yoshida is a critical part of your case, but as others have said, you have to buy all of Yoshida. It seems pretty clear to me that Yoshida is telling us that no, the president doesn't have the authority to rewrite the tariff schedules. And it seems like
the department attorney argued that a spike in trade deficit created the necessary emergency that required Trump to impose the tariffs. The states and businesses